Hey everybody, Tori here. Today I wanted to try something new. I just read The Alloy of Law, which is the first book of the second Mistborn era. I wanted to try to summarize it in 10 minutes or less. So The Alloy of Law, the main character is Waxilium Ladrian. He is the head of the Ladrian house. His house is in the city of Elendil, and he has for the last 20 years been out in an area called the Roughs. And here in the Roughs, he attempts to uphold the law, capture criminals, and he works as a bounty hunter. Wax is what's known as Twinborn. He is both a allomancer and a ferrochemist. His allomantic power is steel, so he can push on metallic objects. This allows him to push on the object and send it flying, or if the object is heavier than he is, it will send him flying. His feruchemy power is known as skimming. It allows him to grow heavier or lighter as he pleases. So we begin with Wax in the Roughs. He is searching for an outlaw named Bloody Tan. He's with his girlfriend at the time, named is Lessie. At some point, Wax and Lessie do get split up. Wax eventually does come across Bloody Tan. However, he is holding Lessie hostage. Wax thinks that he has a shot, and he takes it. Instead, what happens is Bloody Tan pulls Lessie into the path of the shot, and he kills her instead. After this, Wax takes aim at Bloody Tan and kills him as well. 4 months later, Wax is back in Elendil at his Ladrian mansion, and he's having a party. And the people that are coming are bringing potential suitors for him because since he's a lord, he needs to marry and he needs to produce heirs. Wax, at one point during the party, decides he doesn't want to be there. He leaves, steel pushing away into the night. While out and about, he hears gunshots and he goes to investigate. He encounters the assailant that he thinks fired the gun, and the assailant shoots at Wax. And Wax was able to deflect the bullets. However, when he goes to return fire, he thinks he hears Lessie screaming and he freezes. Or at least he thinks he hears Lessie. This causes him to freeze. He manages to get away, and the constables end up taking the assailant. He goes back to his mansion after this, and he decides that his lawman days are behind him. 6 months later, Wax is informed that one of his family's steel shipments is stolen and is done by a group called the Vanishers. While reading this report, we meet Wax's partner in crime, Wayne. Wayne is also twinborn, so he has both allomantic and feruchemical powers. His allomantic power is known as a slider. Sliders can create a bubble of compressed time. And what this does is time slows down to almost a stop for everybody outside of the bubble, while it continues at normal speed for the people inside of the bubble. The people on the outside of the bubble, of course, don't sense this. This ability is very useful in dicey situations where Wayne may need to pause and think about what to do next. Wayne's feruchemical power is self-healing, so Wayne is able to store healing in his metal mind. He does this by spending time being sick, and the sicker that he makes himself, the more healing he's able to store. Wax and Wayne were partners when Wax was a lawman in the Roughs. Wayne has come back and is trying to coax him back into becoming a lawman. While Wayne is there, Wax meets with a man named Lord Harms. His daughter's name is Steris, and Wax and Steris are getting together for a potential match. After some discussion with Steris, we gather that she's a bit robotic, lacking in emotion. She presents Wax with I don't know what you want to call it, a marriage contract or a relationship contract that details how they will court one another, how long certain phases of their courtship will take, and when potentially they could look to marry. Wax is agreeable to this. This union would be beneficial for him and also for Steris' family. After this meeting, Wax decides that he's going to try to do both. He wants to be both Lord Ladrian and also serve as a lawman as a kind of hobby. So he's going to investigate who stole that steel shipment from him. Wax and Steris's first public outing together will be at a local lord's wedding. Lord Harms will also go, and they bring along Marassi, who was at the previous meeting. She is presented at the moment as Steris's cousin. At this wedding, Wax finds that Wayne has snuck in, impersonating one of the waiters. Wayne tells Wax that he thinks that the Vanishers, or this was actually Wax's theory, and Wayne followed up on it. Wayne tells Wax that the Vanishers aren't just looking to steal, or the robberies aren't the end of it. They're also kidnapping people, and those people that they're kidnapping are relatives of the Lord Mistborn. We can infer is Elendventure, and the Ascendant Warrior appears to be Vin, and we get references to the both of them throughout the book. And at this point, we are unsure why the Vanishers are attempting to kidnap distant relatives of Elendventure. As the night goes on, the Vanishers decide to crash the wedding, and they attempt to kidnap Steris and Marassi, and they get a hold of both of them. Wax and Wayne decide to fight back. After an awesome fight scene, Wax and Wayne have killed most of the Vanishers, and they have managed to get Marassi back. However, Steris, they weren't able to get Steris, so she was kidnapped. Wax and Wayne notice a couple things. First, the leader of the gang appears to have Koloss blood, and when Wax shot him, he got back up. Then the assailants the Vanishers also had aluminum guns and aluminum bullets. Now in this world, aluminum is a very expensive, precious, and rare metal, so it's strange that these robbers would have such expensive weapons. Marassi and Wax have a discussion, and through their discussion they discern from one another that the Vanishers are stealing long-distance relatives of Elendventure, possibly to breed additional Allomancers. The victims that are being kidnapped are all women. Wax and Wayne's next move is to find out where the Vanishers' hideout is. Wayne goes to a police station impersonating a constable. This police station is holding some of the Vanishers that were taken alive. Wayne is able to coax the constables there to let him question some of these prisoners. Through his discussion with these prisoners, Wayne is able to glean where the Vanishers' hideout is currently, and he goes back to tell Wax. Back at Wax's mansion, he and Marassi are still there discussing things. We learned that Marassi is not Steris' cousin. She is actually Lord Harms' illegitimate daughter, making her Steris' half-sister. This is important because now it makes sense why the Vanishers were looking to kidnap Steris and Marassi, because they had knowledge of their genealogy, their distant relatives of Elendventure, and that is why the Vanishers wanted to kidnap them. While Wax, Wayne, and Marassi are having a discussion, the butler at House Ladrian comes in with some tea. He attempts to serve it to Wax. Wayne takes the tea and drinks it, and he says that he's been poisoned. He drops on the ground. Wax quickly turns to the butler, who appears to be pulling out a gun. He disarms the butler. The butler then appears to be detonating something, at which point Wayne puts a time bubble around himself, Wax, and Marassi, stopping time for people, not stopping it completely, but slowing it down to a crawl for everybody outside the bubble. They're able to see that the butler appears to be setting a bomb off. And quickly, Wax grabs a hold of Marassi, and Wayne, he makes himself extremely heavy and he breaks through the floor. Wax drops the time bubble and the bomb goes off above them, and all three of them are saved from the explosion. Wax, Wayne, and Marassi then go to the Vanisher's hideout with Wayne's lead that he got from interviewing those prisoners. The Vanishers have vacated the premises. Nobody is there, but they do learn from some of the beggars there that the people who were occupying that building were moving what appeared to be a large piece of equipment in and out of the building. Next, we get a point of view chapter from Miles, who was a lawman out in the roughs that Wax used to work with in the past. Miles has now become the leader of the Vanishers, so he has turned away from his lawman days and turned to a life of crime, and he is the one leading these kidnappings and thefts. Through Miles's perspective, he has a discussion with a man named Mr. Suit. Mr. Suit is a well-to-do nobleman in Allendale, and he is the one who's funding Miles and the Vanishers. We also learn that Miles is also a twin-born. His powers are both alchemically and ferrochemically gold-based, and because of this, he can heal endlessly and rapidly. Something else that we learn about Marassi is that she is also an allomancer. She is what's known as a pulsar. Her power is the opposite of Wayne's, where she can create a time bubble. However, the people inside the bubble, time stops for them to a crawl. However, the people outside the bubble, time speeds up. Wax, Wayne, and Marassi next go out to the roughs to search for clues on the Vanishers. They don't find really much of anything. On the train ride back, Wax is attacked by Miles. After an extended conflict, Wax is able to knock Miles off of the train. Remember, now we cannot kill Miles, so this is the only way of disposing of him at this point. After this, Wax, Wayne, and Marassi go visit an accomplice of Wax's. Her name is Renetti, and she appears to be a guns and ballistics expert. She has made guns for Wax in the past. While visiting Renetti, Wax borrows one of her guns. It is an 8-round gun, and 2 of the rounds are Haze Killer rounds. And Haze Killer rounds are code for bullets that are designed to kill allomancers. For this, we learn that Miles is planning another robbery. Wax and Wayne are able to discover which train is going to be robbed next, and they begin making preparations to foil this plan. Wax and Wayne approach the train that is about to leave the station. This train is carrying aluminum, and it is the target of Miles and the Vanisher's next robbery. Wax and Wayne are wearing guard suits as a disguise. At this point, they are trying to get onto the train, and moments later, there is a gunshot that rings out in the crowd. This causes confusion. Wax pretends to have been shot. Using this ploy, Wayne moves Wax onto the train cart and shuts the door. After this, we learn that it was Marassi who was firing the gun. These were blank rounds, so there was no danger. They wanted to create confusion and give Wax an opportunity to pretend to be shot so that he could move on to the train. Wayne then goes up to the hill that Marassi fired from, and there they plan on keeping an eye on the train that Wax is now boarded. So here we learn how the Vanishers have been robbing trains. The train that is being robbed is somehow brought to a stop. This is done by a train opposite on the same track of the train being robbed, coming the opposite direction towards that train. From the hill that Marassi and Wayne are on, we see that it is a fake train created by the Vanishers, and the whole point, of course, is to get the target train to come to a halt. The train comes to a stop over a bridge that goes over a river, and while it is stopped, we see a barge coming through under it, and it is carrying a large machine. This machine is a crane which which lifts the target train's cart off of the train and then puts an exact replica onto it. So they don't need to break into the train cart. They are simply swapping it out. At the Vanisher's new hideout, Miles is there. They rip open the train cart's doors. Knowing this would happen, Wax had rigged the doors to explode as soon as they were ripped off. He takes cover inside of the cart, so he's protected from this explosion. After the explosion occurs, he jumps out of the cart and the fight begins. On the Vanisher side, we have Miles, and we also have a man named Tarson, who is a pewter allomancer. Now, pewter allomancers can make themselves very strong and have a lot of endurance. He also is the one who had the Koloss blood, or he has Koloss blood. In addition to Tarson, there are two other enemy allomancers. One of them is a lurcher, and the other one is a coin shot. While this was all happening, Wayne and Morassi did follow the train cart that Wax was on, and they joined the fight. Wayne has his dueling canes, and Morassi provides cover fire with her rifle from afar. Morassi is able to kill the lurcher allomancer shooting him. To Wax, in preparation for this fight, knowing Miles' abilities, he doesn't try to shoot him. Instead, he tries to trap him with a fishing net. Miles is prepared for this. He pulls out a stick of dynamite and blows himself out of the net. Wax doesn't have enough time to get away, and he's hurt by the explosion. While this is occurring, mists begin to roll into the area where the fight is occurring. Wax begins to hear a voice, and it identifies itself as Harmony. Harmony is a godlike being, and she has a brief conversation with Wax, and Harmony somehow brings Wax's box of guns and gear that was at his mansion that he had previously locked away when he decided to give up his lawman days. But it's here now, and he gears himself up with it. We jump back to Wayne, and he spots the coin shot. The coin shot has Morassi's gun. He is able to fire the gun at Wayne, hitting him in the arm, and we don't know where Morassi is at this point. We jump back to Wax, who has re-entered the fight, now fully geared up. He's able to kill the coin shot with his Haze Killer round. Wax then was able to find Steris, and he gets her away to safety. He comes back to confront Miles and sees that he is holding Morassi hostage in the exact same way that Bloody Tan held Leslie hostage at the beginning of the book. Correction, it's Tarson who is holding Morassi hostage. Miles is just right there standing with them. As Tarson is about to execute Morassi, Wayne throws down a speed bubble, and Wax and Wayne discuss how to get out of this one. Through some clever use of their speed bubble and 2 shots out of Wax's gun, he's able to ricochet the second shot of his gun, if I'm remembering correctly, and it curves around Morassi and hits Tarson in the head, killing him instantly. After this, Wayne is down on the ground and is unable to assist any further. Wax goes and begins fighting Miles. It's a futile effort because Miles simply cannot be harmed in any meaningful way. Miles begins beating Wax. Morassi then goes over to Wax and throws down her speed bubble, which slows down time for people inside the bubble and speeds it up for people outside of the bubble. Miles, Wax, and Morassi are inside of her bubble. So time has now sped up outside of the bubble, and we learn that before this confrontation took place, Wax and Wayne informed the constables of where they were going, and speeding up the time allowed the constables an opportunity to get to the fight. They do, and they apprehend Miles. After this, looks like Wax and Wayne and Morassi have won. Morassi does let Wax know that she has feelings for him. Wax lets her know that they will not be pursuing a relationship. Steris and Wax will continue their courtship. And then the story wraps up. Miles is executed. Morassi attends this execution. And we wrap up with one more twist. Wax has figured out who Mr. Suit is. It is his uncle, the previous Lord of House Ladrian, who faked his own death and Wax's sister's death. We now learn that he is alive, and so is Wax's sister. We end the book with one final meeting. Morassi is encountered by an Iron Inquisitor. He gives Morassi a book and tells her to give it to Wax. And that's it. That is the Alloy of Law. Hope you enjoyed this discussion and the summarization. I hope I kept that to under 10 minutes. We'll see when I edit the video. I am part of the way through the next one, Shadows of Self, and I hope to have that one done here pretty soon. It'll also be a 10 minutes and under video, and if you guys liked it, that's great. Look out for the next one. Thank you.